good morning. Like Pastor Katie said, The Adjustment Bureau is one of my very favorite movies. So how many people in here have seen The Adjustment Bureau? Okay, so not many. So it's not a lot of people's favorite. I think probably 20 people in the world have seen it. Because every time I ask somebody, have you seen The Adjustment Bureau? They go, no. I go, oh my gosh, what's wrong with you? And so this morning I had several Adjustment Bureau moments, and it impacted what is going to happen this morning during my talk. So I'm used to public speaking, but I'm not used to speech writing. So I usually talk about the things that I do and that I know, and as far as traffic and state patrol work, because that's what I've been doing for 23 years, so I kind of know it, right? So it's really easy. Most things I have to do is pull statistics or whatever, but I don't have to speech write. But I thought, if I'm going to do this, because when Pastor Katie's asked, will you please do this on the adjustment room? I'm like, yes. Because my default answer in life is yes. Because then I get a lot of opportunities to do really cool things that if I said no, I wouldn't get the opportunity to do. So after I said yes, then I started thinking about what all it would entail. I was like, oh, okay, I gotta write a speech. I'm not a speech writer. Well, okay, I'm gonna do like Pastor Katie, and I'm going to, have my notes, and I'm gonna be very organized about it, and I'm just gonna go through this thing, and it's gonna be fine, right? No. So I started writing. I got my computer. I couldn't sleep the other morning, and so I got up at about 4:45, and I started banging out all this information. Oh, I'm talking about this, I'm talking about that, and I kept watching the movie over and over, and I invited my niece Megan to watch the movie because you just can't be in my life and not know what the Adjustment Bureau is all about, because I refer to it a lot. I go, oh my God, there's the Adjustment Bureau. And just so you know, the Adjustment Bureau for me is God. It's God making moves in your life to make sure that you stay safe and to make sure that you get what you're supposed to get. And sometimes that get is a lesson. It's not always that fun, but you get it anyway. And so I started doing all this writing, and then I watched the Adjustment Bureau like again and again and again, because I'm like, okay, I'm going to make sure I get the points that I want to talk about, because this is really important. So then I pause it, and then I write some more, and I write some more, and then I sent Johnny to get to Office Depot, and I go get some new ink, because I got to make sure I can print this out when I'm done, because this is going to be good. So Johnny goes and gets the ink, and he goes, you want to put it in the printer? Yes, get that ready, because I'm going to print this out. It's going to be good. And so I didn't print it out last night. I stayed up really late writing. Johnny fell asleep next to me on the couch, and I'm still writing. I'm just going at it. I'm speech writing. Whew, you should have seen me. I was on fire. And so then I got tired, so I went to bed. And then this morning, when I got up, I said, oh, I'll just write some more. So I'm on that computer again. Oh, I'm typing away. And then, that's okay, it's Jesus calling. And he's called a lot this morning, so you might want to talk to him. But then so we moved on, and I got up, after I finished typing away, it was time for me to print. So I go upstairs, and I emailed it to myself, and I couldn't, because it kept saying email offline. Email offline. I'm like, no, it's not, because I see you're online. I'm online. We're online. So I hit print again. Email offline. I go, that's okay. I'm smarter than you. So I sent it to another way to print it. Hit print, and it printed this one page. The last page. So I could read this to you, and it would make absolutely no sense. So I said, okay, Adjustment Bureau, we're going to do something different. So I said, I'm going to airdrop this into my phone, right? So you can't see it, but Megan was just looking at it. She goes, oh my goodness, look at all that weird gibberish. So it only printed out a few words here and there, and then it would put gibberish in between. So basically, what God was telling me, and what I told Pastor Katie would happen, and she goes, oh, don't worry, you just do you. And I go, well, I guess I have to, because I can't do you. Because I was going to try to do kind of you, but now I have to do me, so that's what you get today, is me. So I absolutely, that was one of my Adjustment Bureaus, where God says, you're not going to do it the way you think you're going to do it, you're going to do it the way I do it, and I don't care how many avenues you think you have to do it your way, I'm going to show you that you're going to do it my way, so I'm doing it His way. And that's what you'll get today. So when Pastor Katie, we move forward, I go, okay, I'm going to move on. I'm still going to show up. I could have just stayed at home, right? So Pastor Katie, sorry. But I would never do that to Pastor Katie. I love her way too much. But and here's my next Adjustment Bureau, and then I'm going to give you an overview of what the Adjustment Bureau, what it really is, and what that movie is about, since nobody chose to watch it but me, and I forced Megan to watch it, and Johnny. So me and Johnny constantly talk about the Adjustment Bureau. But Pastor Katie sent me the order of worship in Google Docs, and again, I had all kind of computer problems. I couldn't open it. So I go, still typing. And so then I looked at it after I finished typing my intro and what I was going to say. And in my story, the beginning was about a conversation that I had with Carolyn Edmonds. Carolyn Edmonds we used to live in the same complex over in the Links. And when Carolyn Edmonds showed up here, I was really happy to see her. And then a few weeks ago, we were in the back of the church after church, and we were talking about this church and how much we enjoy Pastor Katie, how much we enjoy this congregation and the people and the warmth that we feel about the people that we have the opportunity to worship with. And then finally I was able, Pastor Katie sent me another email in another format, and I opened it, and who was our liturgist but Carolyn Edmonds. I was like, see, look at how that works. See the Adjustment Bureau at work? So I was already thinking of Carolyn Edmonds when the Adjustment Bureau said, Carolyn Edmonds will be a part of what you're doing today. So the Adjustment Bureau is a movie that's about God. They call it the Adjustment Bureau. They can call it whatever they want. And they call it the chairman. You never see the chairman. And they said the chairman comes in many different forms. But I say it's God. And so God kind of shows everybody, this is what's going to happen in your life, whether you like it or not. Kind of like you did to me this morning. And I'm of the belief at this point in my life, I totally get it. I get that he guides my steps. I get that he shows me where I want to go, even if that's not where I want to go. I do it. And I'm okay with it because I have learned to be okay with it, because that's just the way it is. I look at God, I have kind of a parent-child relationship with God, and I go, okay, God's telling me what I have to do, and just like when my mother would tell me what I had to do, I did it. And now God has taken over for her, and I do it. But the Adjustment Bureau stars Matt Damon and Emily Blunt, and they have this meeting, this wonderful chance meeting where Matt Damon was running for senator of New York, and he was leading the poll by 10 points. And then he did a bad thing, and it ended up on the front page of the newspaper, and then he tanked. So he lost the race. So he went into the restroom to practice his speech. And when he is in the restroom, he's walking his way through his concession speech, and out of one of the bathroom stalls, and yes, he's in the men's bathroom, out pops Emily Blunt. Right? Isn't that cute? What's she doing in there? The Adjustment Bureau. And so Emily Blunt pops out, and they have this conversation, and she's very frank with him about several things. And then, after like a couple of minutes, they're in this passionate kiss. They're like, we are meant to be. This is what the kiss is saying. They didn't say it, but that's what I was like, ooh. And so, I'm going to tell you a story about Johnny, and I'm doing this for two purposes. One, so that you know that these kind of things really do happen, because it happened to Johnny and I. And two, because Johnny will never own the truth on this story. And if I say it here, he has to finally own it. Because he knows that God and all of you are listening, and he will not ever go against that. So I totally, I kissed Johnny. This is the part he doesn't own. I kissed Johnny. And after I kissed Johnny, I said to him, Johnny, I said, I'm never going to kiss another guy again. You're it. You're my guy. Okay, so, men and women, if anybody says that to you, run. You're in the hands of the star. Okay? But Johnny didn't run, thank goodness. But he did look a little like, uh-oh, what has just happened to me in my life? And so I told him, just relax, I see it, I see what's happening to you right now. But I am not going to hide in the trunk of your car, and I'm not going to move in on your porch. I'm just telling you, whenever you get back here, and you will be back, it's going to be me and you. So, 12 years later, it's me and him. And so I was right, and Johnny was not, because he didn't know what was happening to him. And it happened. And now he says he can't live without me, and right, that's the end of the story between us, but not really, because we're going to continue on for the rest of our lives. And I consider that an Adjustment Bureau moment because I just knew, I felt it, and I trust God. And if it wouldn't have happened, then I'd have to have been wrong, but I'm so happy I'm not. So, anyway, there's lots of things that happen in our lives every day where God shows up, and he shows us what he's really about, and we ignore them. And we're very guilty of saying, well, where's God? Where's God when we need him? Why isn't God here? God is here. And sometimes there are some very tragic things that happen in our lives, and we think that God is not there. I have my niece Megan. Megan is here today, and Megan comes to church with me periodically. and you can tell we look so much alike. So, but Megan came to me through a tragic situation, and I did ask her before I talk about this that if I could. Megan's dad graduated from the academy with Johnny 28 years ago. And Megan's dad was this wonderful person that was, Johnny and him were very close. As a matter of fact, Megan went into the archives recently and found a picture of the two of them together, standing next to each other. She goes, my dad's. And so, he was killed on a traffic stop when Megan was 3. I had only been in the State Patrol about a year. I'd only been commissioned for about a year. I'd been there a little bit longer, but a commissioned person for a year. And I remember exactly where I was when this happened. And it was a horrible thing. And when one of our officers is killed in the line of duty, we rally around, we come together like any other family would, and we make sure that we take care of that family. We stand up for them, we fill in where we can, we make sure that the family is taken care of the best possible, because that's a huge void too. And Megan's mother was pregnant with her little brother at the time. So she's pregnant, she's got Megan, the little 3-year-old, and I remember seeing pictures of Megan. And I remember how it would break my heart that this little girl has now lost her father. And so, fast forward, Megan grows up. Megan's the happiest little thing ever and grows into the happy, tall thing that she is now. And Megan and we spend a lot of time together, and we text all the time, we talk all the time, we see each other almost every day because I have the pleasure of hiring Megan at the State Patrol as a communications consultant. And so, but last week, and this is how Megan's mind works, last week we went to get mani-pedis together, and for those of you that don't know that, manicures and pedicures, we went to do that, and while we were there, because Megan always says, you are my true whole parent and aunt. So I go, okay, I'm that. So while we're there at the nail shop, the girl says, is that your mother? And Megan goes, best day ever. They see us. They see us. Look at me. She knows you're my mother aunt. So she is one of the happiest people I have the opportunity to be around on a regular basis. And she came into my life, into my space, from a tragic situation. And none of us would have ever seen this. She's 22 years old now. None of us would have ever seen the blessing that she was going to be, even in the face of such a tragic situation. But I am honored and happy to have her in my life every day. She cheers me on, she cheers me up, she can go too. Boy, she's got a lot of energy. And for her to want to spend a lot of that time with me is a blessing. But Megan has every right to be angry and bitter and hurt and depressed. But she chooses life. And looking at her and looking at what she has persevered through is amazing. So Megan and we have our own adjustment bureaus. A couple of weeks ago, Megan went to Eastern Washington over to Grand Coulee, where her dad grew up, and celebrated her grandparents, her mother's parents' anniversary. And Megan's grandmother, while she was there, broke her arm. They had to rush her to the hospital, get her arm set, and Megan went out a back door and saw a sign that said, James E. Saunders, and that's Megan's dad. And she took a picture of it, she sent it to me, she goes, look, Dad's here. And I go, oh, that's pretty cool. About a week later was our State Patrol graduation, and now Megan's responsibility at the State Patrol is to do our social media. And so she was live streaming the graduation. So she runs around, gets different angles, and shows people that are watching from home what our graduations are all about. And so Megan runs over, and she stops, and right there we have a flag of all of our fallen officers, and her dad's name was on top. And so she takes a picture of that, and she sends it to me. She goes, look who's here. What a stalker. so I watch her, and I watch how she makes something so beautiful out of such a tragic situation. And I learn from her, and I embrace that myself, because I think it's so very important to be able to do that. And I forgot to tell you how I first started thinking about and learning about the concept of the Adjustment Bureau. My brother, Michael, who's the oldest, I called him one day, and he answers the phone, and he goes, hello, and I said, hey, Michael, and he goes, you know what, something bad was about to happen, and you got in the way of that. And I thought, well, that's weird, but whatever. And so he said, and I said, okay. He said, well, the phone rang. I was on my way out to lift weights, and you are the only person I would have answered the phone for. Otherwise, I would have kept going. So you called me, you must have stopped me from doing something that was going to maybe hurt me, and so you saved me. I go, okay, you're welcome. So anyway, weirdness, and then several years later, the Adjustment Bureau comes forward, and I go, okay, I totally get it, that makes sense. But I am in a place in life where I am so blessed in so many ways, and I came from some really interesting things that we don't need to get into, but I still know the level of blessings that are heaped upon me every single day. Does that mean that everything in my life is absolutely perfect? It's not. But it does mean that everything in my life has something perfect about it. And we were outside, Bill asked me, he goes, do you ever like just kind of get a mean face and give some bad news? I go, no, I give bad news with a smile, because if you give bad news with a smile, it makes it better. And people are very confused, like, did she just say something bad? I don't know. Maybe she did, maybe she didn't, but what I do know is I'm confused right now, and I'm just going to move on. And sometimes it's good to have people a little confused. I'm going to tell you this, and then I'm going to be finished with you. Well, I got 2 things to tell you, and then I'm going to move on. So the first thing I'm going to tell you you're not going to like, and that's why I want to talk about Bill telling you about bad news. How many of you know that I am God's favorite? Not Johnny, baby. So you're not going to like it, but we're going to go with it, okay? So, I am God's favorite, and I can tell you why I know this. So, I want you to do something with me. If you were born on Christmas Day, please raise your hand. Uh-oh, looks like it's just me. Okay, so, take it a little further, because I know you don't believe me. You're not there yet, but I'll get you there. If you were supposed to be born on December 20th, but you weren't born until December 25th, raise your hand. Looks like you can't join me yet. So if you were your mother's 3rd child, who normally the 3rd child kind of walks right out of there, right, and comes on time or even early because they're already ready, please raise your hand. Oh, darn, looks like it's just me. So that's one reason I know that I am God's favorite. I know that God made me come on His day. Now, with being His favorite, there's a lot of work that comes with that. I have to really mark my P's and Q's, because I can't be mean to people if I'm God's favorite, right? And for years, my mother has argued with me about this. But I will tell you, and I'm not a young person, and I've been telling my mother this since I was very young. I know I'm God's favorite, Mom. I know I am. I think it was last week, she sent me a text, and she said, finally she said, okay, I give. You are God's favorite. I said, thank you, I appreciate that. And it took me so long to convince her, but I had been telling her different things that maybe it should have been obvious, and she would say, no, you're highly favored by God. I go, no, you are highly favored by God. I'm God's favorite. So I'm going to tell you about a miracle that happened recently, and you too will believe it, and you're welcome to look at the miracle if you want, but you don't have to. When Johnny got promoted to assistant chief, I had been talking about a particular car that I wanted, and I've been talking about it ever since we've been together. He's tired of it. He's sick of me talking about it, and I don't blame him, but I can't stop. And so he goes, we're getting that car. And I go, oh, I don't know. I probably should just keep talking about it. We're getting the car. So in April, we get the car. And even right before we got the car, I go, I don't know if we should do it. Maybe I should just keep, fantasizing and talking. He goes, we get the car. So we got the car, bring it home. That's in April. In June, I go out to the garage. Johnny's dad and his parents were visiting for his promotion ceremony, and his dad said, oh, I'm going to show you something I did in the garage today. And so I said, okay, so I go running outside, and I stop. I freeze. I'm like, there's a dent in the car. There's a dent in the car that I've been wanting for so long. And we haven't had dents in any of our cars. We haven't crashed any of our cars, and it's a good-sized dent, and it's deep. And I'm like, Johnny, there's a dent. There's a dent. Oh, there's a dent. So Johnny comes out, and he's like, wow, and I had just driven it somewhere, parked it. Somebody obviously backed into me, and that's just the way it goes. So after I got over the shock of the dent, I was kind of over it, and I was like, okay, well, either we get it fixed or just sits in the garage the rest of its life, because I'm not driving that car that day. I am not driving, no. So a week later, Johnny's going to be, I was at an event. Johnny takes the car over to get an estimate on what it would cost to fix it. And this car has backup lights and backup camera, and it has sensors, so I'm assuming it's going to be extremely expensive to fix this. So Johnny jumps in the car, he takes it over to the place, he goes inside, he gets a technician, they come outside, and Johnny says, I need you to take a look at this dent, tell me what it's going to cost to... Okay, wait a minute. So he runs around to the other side of the car and he looks for the dent. The dent is gone. There is no dent in the car anymore. And so I had a vehicle miracle. So any of you that have had a vehicle miracle, you're welcome to raise your hand. But I doubt if I'm going to get a better response than I did a few minutes ago about December 25th. You had a vehicle miracle where your car just fixed itself?
Well,
It better fix itself.
It wasn't the car, it was wouldn't let the gas pedal go, and I couldn't get the car to go, and somebody sped right through the red light if I had the car going.
So that is the Adjustment Bureau in full effect. See, you know what I'm talking about. And when you start paying attention, and what did you think when that happened? Sorry, I digress. What did you think?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You're right, yes.
I mean, and you knew it was God, right?
Oh,
and
absolutely.
and there are
My young
times.
daughter was in the car.
See, you guys have been done because there's coming from now going to the state patrol thing. Coming from my experience in collisions, there's no worse collision than a T-bone. Everything bad happens on a T-bone collision. It's very difficult to survive a T-bone collision. And so Jill actually has survived a T-bone collision. And her neck was broken and she didn't know if she was going to live. She was in traction for a very long time. She's a miracle too. But my vehicle miracle is back to that, where the dent just disappeared. It popped out. And so everyone, even yesterday when I was telling Johnny's brother about my vehicle miracle, he goes, you know, this is what makes me mad about women. Now, you know I'm not the person to say that to, but whatever. He's a pastor. So he is convinced that I did not have a vehicle miracle. And he said, Johnny fixed that car and you know it. I said, no, Johnny wouldn't do that to me. He would tell me if he fixed the car. So long and short of it, the vehicle miracle, the dent pops out, it's no longer there. So now when I'm driving around, if I see a dent in somebody's car, I'm like, they didn't have a vehicle miracle, did they? Nope, sure didn't. Go ahead and tell me about how the heat's going to pop that one out, because they would say the heat popped it out. So I will tell you that God shows up every day, all day. It's your choice whether you want to see him or not. It is your decision whether you accept the blessings, the miracles, whatever you want to call them. In the Adjustment Bureau, spoiler alert, Matt Damon fights for his girl. Matt Damon decides that's the person for him, and no matter how hard they try to change his steps, that's going to be my girl. And I like to think that's what Johnny did too. That's going to be my girl, because I am. And so I tell you this to tell you that let the miracles in your life happen. Let the blessings flow down, because they are there like snowflakes in the air. And if you just reach up and catch them, you will feel